Hey guys, just back with another C# tutorial. So today we're going to just continue in the video series. So we'll be going over a first look at variables. So we'll talk about what variables are and strings and all that. So we have, don't worry about what's on the screen right now, it's just kind of extra stuff. I'll mostly just be doing notes down here. So we have So basically a variable is a storage location in memory that is represented by a name. So we'll see an example of that in a sec. So hopefully that makes sense. So if we have like a string variable, guess I'll have to put it in here. So if we have a string, whoops, forgot if it's capital or lowercase in C#. So I guess it's lowercase. So if we have a string, so let's just say it's var or val, whatever. So if we do that, then that's declaring a variable. We don't want it private. So if we just want to pretend we have a string that's named val, so this is a declaration of a variable. Now if we say val points to, no, not that. Val points to str. So if we say that, pretty much that just means basically that val is a string. So we're declaring it here and then we're initializing it. So basically that's just an example, don't worry about that. But it's a declaration of a variable, and this is an initialization. That should be right. Okay, so that's we'll just move on for that. But basically that's initialization when you point it to the string, and then when you just declare it with nothing, that just means it's a declaration. So basically we'll just move on with some more notes. So basically programs are variables to store data in memory. A variable is a storage location in memory that is represented by a name, for example, such as val. So program that, okay, so we'll skip that. So in C# you must declare a variable in a program before you can use it to store data. So in Python you don't, you can just say val points to a string, or no, str. That's Python, you don't need to declare anything. So that's Python, you can't do that. It doesn't, C# doesn't know what type it is, so you have to specify its type first. So we'll just do some notes down here, because it doesn't like that. I should have probably went with the console app, but I went with the Windows form app. That's okay. So we'll just do some notes down here. That's fine. So let's say we have, so in C# you must declare a variable. You can do this with a variable declaration. You can initialize it first. It doesn't matter. You can do also string val points to str in one line versus what we did before, which was string val with a declaration. Then we said val points to str. Right, so if we do that, then the first part's initialization, so you can do that in a one-liner. That's probably will save you time. If you do this, it's 2 lines of code and you have to space it out, so it depends on what you want to do. Sometimes you may need to do this. You may just want to leave your variable set to 0 or set to some random empty string like this, or you want to just have it just declared. It all depends on your situation. You might need to do different things, but this here is powerful enough to do a lot of things. So these are things you'll be doing all the time. So you can initialize it in one line or declare it and then initialize it, which is here. This is 2 steps here, this is just 1. So this is the general notation here. I haven't written it yet, so data type and then variable name. You need a semicolon in C#. Python, you don't need a semicolon. Java, you need a semicolon. C, you need a semicolon. JavaFX, you need a semicolon. Android, you need a semicolon. So pretty much everything you need a semicolon with, or you need a semicolon basically with your declaration or initialization. Any line of code, basically, except for some special areas, you need a semicolon. So we'll just move on from that. Alright, so we have so data type. Okay, so what is a data type? So a data type is a variable's data type indicates the type of data that the variable will hold. So for example, do you want it to hold a number or a string? So you have to choose. Well, in this case we have a string. Another data type is like a number type, so we'll talk about those. So you basically have an int, and C, you have a double and a decimal. I'm not sure if you have a float. You can always try it. There's an extra special type, we'll talk about it later, it's called a decimal. It's for like currency, numbers and stuff. Okay, so we have, so basically you need to know if your variable, what kind of type you want for your variable. Unlike Python, so you have to tell the compiler basically what kind of type you want to store in your variable for the data. So if it's a number, what kind of number will it be? An integer or a real number? So an int or a double, I guess. So C# provides different kind of data types. So the C# language provides many data types for storing fundamental types of data such as strings, integers, and real numbers. These data types are known as primitive data types. So it looks like a string is not an object in C#. I might be wrong. But from the docs I'm getting that it's a primitive data type. Actually, maybe I should just tell you guys that for sure, so let me just Google that. Sorry, I'm running a back test on my other PC, it's kind of slow. Okay, so is a string in C# a object? Okay, object or a primitive type. Didn't really get a straight up answer there. Okay, so it's saying that it's both. So in Java, I don't believe it is both. So just to clarify, in C# it says that a string is an object or a primitive type, so it can be either or. That seems like it could be wrong though, because I'm getting different answers here. String is a primitive data type, false. Let me just see. There's something on stack here, so let me just check that out. Okay, it says it's C#. It's saying that it's not a primitive type. let me just see. Doesn't say what that is. Oh, yeah, C#. Okay, so a string of primitive type. Basically, it says that it's not a primitive type. Okay, so it's an object then. So it's exactly like Java. There's some confusing facts on the internet, so just be careful. So a string is an object, not a primitive type. So looks like the book kind of confuses people here. So moving on from that, so a variable name, basically like the name Val here. Back to the screen. So we have Val here. That's a variable name, or an identifier. Sometimes they say in C# or C++. Sometimes C. So use a name, don't just use like one letter. That can be confusing. I know in the C book itself, if you've read the C programming book by Dennis Ritchie and Brian Kerningham, they often just use like one letters variables like this. And that can get really confusing. It's nicer when they actually have some kind of variable name, at least like val or fair. Fair works too. You probably use those often. Those might be types in other languages such as JavaScript and stuff, so just be careful. So just moving on, so if we have, basically you just want to make sure that it's a meaningful name to what you're doing. So we have some rules for variables. So the first character must be one of the letters A through Z in lowercase, or A through Z in uppercase, or an underscore character. After the first character, you may use the letters A through Z, lowercase or uppercase. The digits 0 through 9 or underscores. The name cannot contain spaces. So you can use camel casing. You've seen me use that before, so that's like str val. So that the reason why it's camel case is because the first character is lowercase, the second word in the same variable is uppercase. So I do that a lot. They do that in Java, so I kind of just got used to it. I kind of like it. It helps me. It helps me kind of keep a good form through the code. Like, so for example, a class will be capital, namespace will be capital, method here in this case it's capital, but if I write a method I'll probably make it camel cased. Just because I don't really need to, it just depends. If you want to, Microsoft chose to make their methods and functions capital for the first letter. That's just their thing, so it's up to you, whatever you want to do. Alright, so let's just continue on. Alright, so what do we have now? So we talked about declaring a variable and initializing it. You can do it in one thing. So we have a string. We talked about that. So this is called a string literal. Val points to, so down here string val, and then val points to str. So this str in the literal quotes is called literal. You can also have a numerical literal, which is different. We'll talk about that too. Excuse me. Alright, so let's just see, moving on, we have, so we can also assign, for example, we can get other values from other components and all that. So if we have, so let's just say we have a string literal, right, is assigned to a variable like we have here on the screen, val points to str. So the assignment operator assigns the value that appears on the right side to the variable that appears on the left side. So hopefully that makes sense. So whatever's on the right side is being stored in the left side. So val is pointing to str, the string str, where val represents a memory location, some kind of hex code number, like OX, whatever, 2, 4, 5, I forgot my hex code, something like that, which is like hexadecimal, which is basically what most memory locations are, at least in C for that much. So C# is based on C, I believe. It might be hexadecimal. Most likely the memory location is going to be some hexadecimal, which you'll really never see because you're well, I'm not sure if you'll see it in C#. We'll have to debug it in C. Like in Java, it'll show you the memory location when you debug. In Python, it won't. In C, can't remember if it does. It might. Forget. But I know in Python it doesn't. I believe it doesn't show any memory location. Java does show you the memory location. And you can see the hex code. So val will stand for some hex code number like OX, which just means hex code, and then like some kind of hex code like that. And that hex code really stands for val, and that's pointing to the string, which is being stored in some kind of memory. Mostly, not always, but usually virtual memory, which is all confusing stuff. Hardware was a very difficult class because it's mostly for electrical engineers, but for like computer science majors, it's confusing to understand because there's so much more electrical components and all that, which kind of stuff we skip. But anyway, so there's more physics and stuff too. So let's just continue on. So once you have assigned a value to a variable, you can use the variable in other operations. For example, assume product label, or whatever you have, is the name of a label control. The following statement, so we'll show an example here, assigns the product description to the product label controls text property. So we've seen this before. So if we have like, let's just say we have label dot text points to let's just say another label, or just say description label, whatever. So in that case, we have a product label's text property being set to another label's, let's just say it's a string, so something like that. Or we could just say that this is coming from val, which in this case, label.text will then point to, label now points to basically, yeah, so label.text then, we'll just do that on the same line. So label.text then points to str, the string str, because we said label.text points to val, where in this case val is storing the string str. So if you say label.text points to val, then label.text is pointing to the string str. So hopefully that makes sense. So we could also say, we can call a message box. So we can say, okay, we want a message box, which is like a dialog box, to call the show method. Anyway, so we're going to say that we want to show. We could say a random string here, or we could say that we want to show val. So in this case, it'll also print out in the message box. So the message box shows str. So if we change this str to blueberries, then we'll say, okay, well, val points to blueberries. So then this case label.text points to val, then label.text then points to blueberries. The string blueberries. Then the message box in this case will then show the string blueberries. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so another topic basically is string concatenation. So string concatenation is appending one string to the end of another string, so it just means joining them together. So you can use the plus operator to concatenate strings. The plus operator produces a string that is a combination of the two strings as its operands. So if we have, let's do another example here, so let's just delete this stuff. So in this case, if we have a string, message string, and we'll say, okay, well then message string points to blue plus berries. So I did these extras. Okay, let's just go without these spaces for a sec. So blue plus berries, right? So this is concatenating. So this is a string concatenation, which means joining them. Joining the strings together. So we're joining the strings together with the plus operator. These two strings on either side are the operands. So basically, if we then say message box.show, then we'll say show the message string. So in this case, then the dialog box or the message box then displays blueberries as one string. So hopefully that makes sense. We're joining two strings together, and we're showing in the dialog box that we're showing in the dialog box that we're showing in the dialog box the string blueberries, which will pop up on a GUI, like on an app or on your phone or like on the PC, computer, whatever. It'll say in kind of like a window that we made recently. It'll show blueberries. You can just hit OK or cancel. So let's do an example here. This one might be a little complicated. It's not complicated. The thing is, it just takes a little bit of time to set up the GUI. So I'm just thinking, should we do that in this video or should we do that in the next one? We could do it now. Actually, it might take a little bit of time. Let's do that in the next video then, just because this is starting to get close to half an hour. So in the next video, we'll do the lab. Basically, we'll set up the GUI to make an app, and we will concatenate a string. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you guys like the video, you can like and subscribe to the channel for more programming and investing tutorials. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.